Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday and welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa, where we definitely share some seriously inconvenient truths. Hello to everybody in the chat. Nice to have you here. Welcome to Monday, and of course, with Miles Johnston from the Basis Project, expert on everything weird and wonderful. So we're having him in just a few minutes. But before any further ado, let me have a look at the schedule and pull up the week schedule, 30th of March till the 1st of April. Yeah, we are Monday with Miles Johnston. We're going to be talking about thinking with AI, or maybe not thinking with AI, right? Tomorrow, yay. We've created for you 3 hours of beehive sounds. And that comes from a friend of mine here on the garden route who actually has his own bees and hives. They've come to his property. So these are wild bees, and he especially took a clip for us, and we've created a 3-hour beehive sounds for you, and that is incredibly healing. So if all you do is listen to beehive sounds before you go to bed or just in your house, you'll be amazed what happens. Everything starts, all the patterns start resonating. And then, of course, Wednesday, Double Trouble with Jessie. So join me for that. In the field with Shanti, where we're looking at doing the protective patterning series again. Oopsie. So that'll be live on Thursday. Friday, we didn't have Leo Zagami this week, but we are certainly having him next week again. This coming week, Friday. Sorry, not next week, this Friday. So join me for Leo Zagami on Friday. And then I know that it's Easter Sunday, but for those of you who are available on Easter Sunday for Book Club with Jessie, join us. We're going to be doing the Patreon and YouTube members book club on Sunday with Jessie. So join us for that. And then, of course, on Ara, the Sunday Loop, where we replay some of the older shows. Huh. I hope you all got that. And I hope everyone is well. Hello, Charmaine, Jojo, James, Lisa D. Good to have you all. And then, without any further ado, I did think Miles was there, but I see I have a blank chair sitting in front of me. So I'm sure he's pottering around doing something. But in the meantime, I hope you guys are well and have had a good weekend. And wow, what crazy times are we living in right now, right? I think everything we've been speaking about for the last 5 or 6 years on this channel is like coming to that head now, where we really have to be in our truth, in our discernment. And yeah, exciting times indeed. Hello, Miles. Nice to see you. Did you unexpectedly have me put you on the show? Nice to see you.
I was actually looking for this book, and this is available on Amazon, but it's also available from Devises Bookshop in Devises, where we're having this talk in a couple of days' time, the 2nd of April. The actual author is turning up, and the key to this book is, and this is extremely important in terms of World War II. Spy Hunter's only published history is the only published history of a very long name, which I no way I'm going to try and pronounce. It starts with Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst, DVD, the covert agency set up by Admiral Wilhelm Canaris in 1943. And astute observers would also know that the plan for the EU was discussed in 1943 in the Third Reich. So de facto, the EU became the Fourth Reich. And that's why it's run by who it is now, which is effectively the Fifth Reich. So whilst there were physical battles on the ground in Germany, because this may be a German agency, but German people weren't really sort of in on this.
Right.
So this was an extremely important missing component in what's been going on in our respective current lives and which is going on now. It's a very powerful intelligence agency, and it was involved with the assassination of President Kennedy and a whole pile of complicated things. And that's why this book is that thick. It's updated to 2025. I wouldn't say that, I mean, for a start, the man who set it up is this guy. Now, he's an old man. Well, he was meant to have been killed in 1945. Nope. And then we've got another guy here, which you're familiar with, called President Bush. So how is it that a president of the United States, who was also the head of the CIA, and also one of the few presidents to gain access to Area 51, is on the front of a book about German secret intelligence? So that should give you a good few alarm bells there. Now, the point is, this is a book about the history. For instance, people would remember how HMS Hood, one of the main battleships of the World War II of the Royal Navy, blew up with the famous lucky shell from the Bismarck. Shrimpton is explaining that they built an IED, an installed explosive device, into the actual structure of HMS Hood, as were other Royal Navy ships. And given the correct signal from an opposing German battleship, it would blow up. And that's what happened. So we have a situation where intricately embedded into, and this all involves Hess and all the mystery behind that, and all the mystery behind ultimately a lot of things. And people know about the Rothschilds, the cabal, the Khazarian mafia, and all that. But this answers an awful lot of questions as to what has really been going on and what's really going on now, because you've then got other secret things going on. And one of the things,
is that available on Amazon?
This is available on Amazon. There's only about 7 copies in stock left, in terms of anybody wanting to get it in the next sort of couple of days. But this is the
author?
Pardon?
Who's the author?
Michael Shrimpton.
Michael Shrimpton.
There he is there. You can just about see him.
Right.
He's a former QC, and he was doing an awful lot of, he also writes for Gordon Duff's thing, I think it's called, it's an American intelligence magazine or periodical. And I forget what it is, but I think Gordon Duff, I think there was another Gordon Duff. There's a guy involved who ran that, and they tried bumping him off by running him down on his bicycle, I think in New York somewhere or whatever. But anyway, he does provide intelligence briefs for an intelligence magazine or periodical in the United States. He was able to get the NSA to steer a satellite, and I think it's the German city where the headquarters of the DVD was involved coincidentally with the alleged rigging of the Democrat election to allow Biden in. And let's get it very clear. There's no such thing as an honest election. This is a complete illusion. It just sometimes things happen which is out of the control of the cabal, or whoever you want to call them. So, for instance, a lot of people were very surprised when John Major became Prime Minister of Britain. Okay.
Yes.
They thought, oh, this is very odd. This guy's as dull as whatever. Now, it turns out that John Major, there's a particularly elite church involved with coronations. And there are a series of flags in this particular church where the actual Queen was ultimately interred, when in a funeral, and it has a lot of very deep history with the really intricate wheels of power in Great Britain or the British Empire. And John Major has a flag in there, making him extremely very important in terms of the elite. You don't get there by being a very grey, quiet prime minister, which was epitomized as a very grey puppet in a fantastic comedy puppet show called, God, I've just forgotten that. I'm doing well. It's not in the thick of it. It's I've forgotten. It's just vanished. I need more of it. It was a very, very, it's not Have I Got News for You. It just vanishes as soon as I want to grab hold of it. It was very, very popular puppet TV show on ITV, and it was extremely cutting edge. And John Major was characterized as being so dull, he was actually cement grey. And that was his caricature. Now, the point about him is, what the hell is the point about? I'm doing really well here. I've distracted myself 3 times. The point about John Major is, in terms of the surprise in British elections and American elections, is that I had one of my friends was a lady called Kathy Morgan. She's just passed away now, and her boyfriend was connected with the Ike and Tina Turner band and lived here in central London, and it was a wonderful thing. But in the long ago, when she was at school, and she must have been at a fairly good school, her boyfriend was John Major. We're talking about in their teens, okay? So what happened with Kathy was that her boyfriend, John Major, explained that, look, we've got to break up. I have to go now because I'm going to be prime minister one day. Okay. So that's
wow,
50 years plus ago. In fact, he may still be with us, John Major. And another little thing was during the Falklands War. I think that was 1982, possibly 82, 83. Margaret Thatcher was doing really badly in the elections. Her poll ratings had collapsed, and she was doing very badly. And then this jolly little war happened, and this connects us to the sentient oil. So the Falklands went belly up, and what was going on was there were some fishermen Argentinian fishermen had got access to an island called Thule Island or Thule Island, and that's in the south. That's in the, I think, the Sandwich Islands, well south of the Falklands Islands. Right. The thing about the Atlantic Ocean, it's full of these little islands and things. So that's going well south, heading towards Antarctica. So the point about that was that it wasn't anything about fishermen. It was all about a laboratory that had been set up by the Germans in their establishment of a major facility under the ice in Antarctica. Now, a lot of stuff's come out about this quite recently. So what happened was, even in World War One, the Germans had set up these bases because they had found a way under the ice into the between the two main land masses of Antarctica. And this is where one of the most famous events of World War II happened. It was sort of at that early time where we had this sort of fake war where nothing much was going on. But one of the key raiders of German Navy raiders was one of their most famous battleships, which ended up being blown up by its captain. It surrendered to the it's not Argentina. You got Venezuela. I think it was Argentina. This great river estuary of South America. And the point about that was that the sailors that were on that ship, because it had been the Germans at that time, it took the crews from the ships they were sinking, or picked them up, and they were on the ship. So they had quite a few English merchantmen on the ship, and they explained during when this whole debacle finished that the ship had been into very cold waters. It had visited and provided supplies to this German base in Antarctica. And that is where they gained access under the ice, established New Berlin, and that is where the Nachtwaffen and the secret space program, or rather we would call it the secret space program, that's where the Nachtwaffen and the holes under the poles kind of thing all is coming up to the surface right now. And at my last conference, the disclosure conference in December, Brad Olson gave a very, very thrilling presentation on how, even showing the actual commander of the U-boats that were involved in getting under the ice. They had the maps, they had the depth maps, and they were able to go under the ice and establish New Berlin under the ice in Antarctica between the two main land masses. And at the same time, the British had a listening post on an island quite far off Antarctica. They were able to pick up messages, this Enigma encoded messages from the ice of Antarctica. So where was this coming from? And the collective wisdom is it was coming from New Maudland, Queen Maudland, which the Germans then called New Swaziland. So they had a base in Antarctica. Everybody knows that. The scale of the base and its operational abilities is another thing, and that's where the Admiral Byrd thing happens. So speeding on to 1982, we have the Thule base on this island, on this Thule Island, which is interesting because this connects to the Thule Society, which goes into the 1920s and 30s and into the 1800s, where Germany and the German Prussians and all that lot, the Swiss and things, were doing an awful lot of stuff in this esoteric world of channeling and psychic investigation and all that stuff. And people will remember or know of a beautiful lady called Maria Ortiz, and that group of beings who were accessing higher intelligence from somewhere else. And they got an awful lot of information about that, which is how they're able to establish Warp 1 technology in the 1920s and be able to leave the solar system, right? So that goes back to a technology suppressed. Now, simultaneously, earlier in the 1900s, we had a complete rewrite of the physics so that the wider aspect of the rest of the world would learn a corrupted fake physics, which would limit us to 3D plus time, the sort of space-time phenomena thing that Einstein came up with. Again, this was then, again, to distract. Oh, this is Jewish physics, and the Germans were rejecting Jewish physics. This is more continuous diversion that they're using to look, telling us everybody to look this way, rather than look at it that way. So that has meant that, and of course, if anybody rejected Jewish physics, they were anti-Semitic. The whole row happens, and blah blah blah, and a lot of people distract and scream at you, right? So it meant that they were engaging in some kind of intelligence. Okay, so speeding on, we know about the history of the Falklands War. We've talked about how this sentient oil, it's a sentient oil. It's not intelligent oil, it's sentient. Okay, it's been characterized as the black goo, again, to distract and cheapen really the characteristics of this sentient oil. Now, it just turns out that I received information a number of years ago from a business source in London when we were talking to other people. And he had been involved in the Iranian. Oh, did I mention a topical word there? Topical word. The Iranians found that quite a substantial proportion of their oil would not, crude oil coming out of the ground, would not refine. Okay, so they said we can't do anything with this. They can't pump it back in the ground. So this oil was simply left as unusable material in lakes in the deserts, in the middle of Iran somewhere. So this guy was given. He was fishing, obviously fishing for something they knew. Russians obviously knew something about this because Russian psychic and remote viewing technology was way ahead of what we were what it's been said we in the West were dealing with. And there's a guy called Tim Refat published a very important book called Remote Viewing, and in that book, about 2/3 of that book, that was published in 2000, about 2/3 of that book contains a huge amount of declassified information on Russian remote viewing, right? So this indicates that the Russians were engaging with an intelligence, something intelligent, something with more knowledge that they were able to interface with. In other words, they were able to engage in this. Now, the Germans were already down in Zenner. They'd been accessing the ley lines in Zenner because 2 ley lines interface down in South Cork. Not Cork. Why did I say Cork? That's a Freudian slip. Gosh, I've given a Freudian slip about Cork in Ireland, which is down at the south of Ireland, which is just across the English Channel. It's not the bloody French Channel, excuse me. And where would they the next thing just south of Ireland, it would be Cornwall. Oh my God. And I haven't told you, I probably bored you to tears with this. It just so happens that when I was on the boat from Wales to go to Cork in the south, way at the south of Ireland, there was a message saying the secret to UFOs is in Cork Harbour. Oh my God. And then near Cork Harbour is a place called Dingle. And gosh almighty, Star Wars decided to use Dingle and Skellig Michael, again, because of certain energy lines coming into Ireland at that location. And they decided to start the Star Wars franchise that they had. They got the franchise of Star Wars. And the first film in the first Disney version of Star Wars was shot in Skellig Michael. And oh my God, you know the Rendlesham Forest UFO events, Woodbridge, right? The Woodbridge Bentwaters UFO events, December 1980. Don't talk about the events in 1977 because there was a full-scale landing of five triangular craft and five disc-type craft in Rendlesham Forest, just beside the runway at Woodbridge in the forest. left at Eastgate. Oh, is that the name of a book about Rendlesham Forest? Did I use the name of a book about Rendlesham Forest? Just left at the Eastgate. That's where the landing was in 1977. Right? 1977. That's not 1980. So there's a major event that nobody's talking about UFOs and landings engaging in the Rendlesham Forest UFO events, and between an American base and an RAF base, twin base, and they were engaging and communicating with these craft which landed in the forest, right? And don't talk about the space shuttle nose cone, which was a result of a crash of a space shuttle before the space shuttle was officially launched. Oh, would that mean there's a secret space program going on here? Bloody hell. And you got the Falklands War and this intelligent, sentient oil that they found, and had 400 interlocking crates that the British took to Britain and tried to weaponize. And what happened when they tried to weaponize this sentient oil? It's sentient, remember, and doesn't want to kill people. So because this sentient oil didn't want to be weaponized, it killed about 20 Marconi scientists. Now that, under duty of care from the MOD, is very not good. I thought I'd use a Trump term. That's not good. Wiggling my finger at the MOD, not good. That's a bad thing to do, to abuse your staff like that. So this sentient oil was not wanting to kill people. Good. That's good. That's a good thing. Brilliant. So we have a situation now where all these crackpot, multinational, globalist, parasitic, psychopathic beast or bar stewards. Do you realize there's an awful lot of bar stewards running various countries? Yeah, the various countries are run by a lot of bar staff because they're all bar stewards, right? Now, they may be self-replicating bar stewards using their grandmothers. You know, maybe, am I talking in code here?
No, not at all.
There is an awful lot of K's in this expression. If you decode the K's and sort of back reference the symbology of the language which I'm expressing, you get the idea that a lot of the people who are running various countries, like the United States, like Britain, Europe, these other places in the world run by these bar stewards. Right? I just have a sip of my I've only got this to give the impression that I'm actually drinking something which you should be doing. It's, with stuff. Actually, I think there should be lime in there as well.
You're going to give yourself what do you call it when you can't move your fingers? With all that lemon water.
I've just been sawing something. Which? Sorry?
Lemon in there.
That's lemon. That's what it is. Lemons.
Lemon, you see.
I drink so much coffee. I need to equalize, all this stuff. By the way, that's the generic basis mug. No secret space program, no secret craft on this, so it's safe to sell overseas. So the point is that life creates, the point about the oil, there's two things created by the earth naturally. One is what we call crude oil, and another thing is what we call sacred water. It's I think it's H3O2. It's H instead of H2O. Excuse me. Oh, must be something strong enough. Now, I think I've got that wrong. I think it's H4O2. H2O. I think it's not peroxide. The point about it is that the so-called sacred water that comes from deep within the earth, and if you want to sort of chase the physics on this, Nassim Haramein comes up with how this happens. Nassim Haramein has got a much more correct version of the atomic structure and how energies work, and he talks about a toroidal energy field, because we're dealing with many more dimensions other than just the 3D stuff.
Absolutely.
And don't talk about hyperdimensional Richard Hoagland and why they've got 19.5 degrees or 19.2 degrees, where the Hawaiian Islands are, and Mount Olympus on Mars and places like that, and the red spot on Jupiter, why there's that energy coming out of two tetrahedrons on top of each other within a sphere. The tops and bottoms of the tetrahedrons, my fingers and these fingers, are 19.5 degrees. And that's where the energy leaves a sphere from our representation in 3D of a sphere, because we're not dealing with 3D, we're dealing with a spherical image of multidimensional physics, right?
Yeah.
So the point is that this life force, the sentient oil and the special water, and the special water has a triple scalar spiral. Otherwise, you'd see so many people will use these spirals. So-called Saint Patrick, he wasn't a saint, he was a butcher. The shamrock, the trilogy in Christianity, the Holy Ghost, this whatever, God, the Holy Ghost, and whatever. And that represents these triple spirals. Now, the point about the triple spirals they are three interlocking triple spirals going clockwise and then anti-clockwise. So you've got a coherent energy field going clockwise and anti-clockwise. And when you have that, the energy does not disappear. It goes into a scalar energetics realm where it's at 90 degrees and that switches dimension.
Yes.
So you have, and the same thing is going on, type of physics is going on inside the Hadron Colliders,
right,
where you have a plasma field going counterclockwise, and in the same space, a plasma field going anti-clockwise within the same space. So when they're doing that, they're dealing with hyperdimensional or multidimensional physics, but they're only just trying to find a God particle. Again, distraction, bullshit, right? So with real physics, they're using multidimensional actuality, right?
Yeah.
But the physics they tell you, and you'll notice if you watch any of the BBC astronomy programs, they always have happy slappy scientist with a little giggle telling you, because you're stupid and we're intelligent and we're going to tell you about this little giggle, because they've been head screwed. I was going to say another bar steward phrase there. They have been head screwed, mind messed with, because they give it away with the child smile and the little giggle. Okay. The other thing they do is the little laugh, which is the demonic little laugh of a hee hee. That's a trickster. So this should tell you the kind of people you're dealing with when it comes to the physics and when they're talking to you about it, because they're devious and they're psychopathic.
It makes such sense what you're saying, Miles, because when you look at exactly that, even the kiddies' educational programs, they will always create the scientists, the ones who know these things, to be these super intelligent people and kind of separate them from the rest of us. We don't know much. We've got to listen to what they're saying. Not every brain can conceive what these clever people are teaching us. The rest of us are just dumb. We've got to listen to what the scientists say. Wow. What a brainwashing right there.
Yes.
What a freaking brainwashing right there. Same thing with doctors, right? And lawyers.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think there's another one. There's all these finger signs. And There's another one I can make, but there's a couple I shouldn't make. I've got to be careful. But they will give the game away. Or
Or to read
the
between
one
the
eye. I
lines.
don't know what I'm doing with this eye. Oh God.
That one. Or we read between the lines.
Again, I've got to be careful. I've got to be careful what I say would do on my fingers. I could offend people.
You don't want to do that, Miles.
God. Jeez.
Wow. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, and think about that as well, like the scientists or the professors or the clever people, and they have the same thing with the doctors, if you look at it that way, and really, the control behind that is that you don't know your body, somebody else does. You have no idea. And that is the biggest lie ever, because we are designed, to heal ourselves. Our body is designed to heal itself. We have the most supreme intelligence available within the technology, the soul technology. And I'm not talking external. God's technology that lives within you, from which you are created, and what these guys have taken and inverted. So we are supremely intelligent. We've just got to remember that. And it's got nothing to do with how many books you've read or how many degrees you have. It could be partly, but we've also, again, if we look at the way the education system has gone over the years, right? Again, we've spoken about it before, going back to the feminist movement back in the 60s, where they then said, well, what a wonderful liberating thing for women to do X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, the real agenda is to separate families and to get more tax, more money.
Attacking the way we reproduce.
The what, sorry?
Attacking the way we take care of our young and how we reproduce.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that for me is amazing, to see how that's all come about. Because if we can look at that, we can reverse it. And that's what we should be doing, taking our kids from that space and homeschooling, forming communities, for example, where we do that.
Well, this is the point. And a lot of the communities are taken over. I mean, for instance, there was a big protest, an anti-left-wing, an anti-right-wing protest run by the union about race equality in England. Now, to be pretty fair, I think the race issue in England is so many people have got to places that they didn't get to before. And that is fantastic. And to do that at a time when the relevant unions were completely complicit with forcing and making sure that their employees took certain injections.
Right.
They didn't question that. They didn't ask any questions whatsoever on behalf of their members, many of whom lost their jobs and many of whom knew there was something very badly wrong. So what they're doing is, in with all due respect, in today's world, in 2026, it's not as if it was like 1966 or the horrendous race riots and things that we've had in the past. A huge progression has happened since then, and that is fantastic. That's very good. And I'm sure there are other areas which still need improvement, but Rome wasn't built in a day. But at a particular time like this, to mobilize on the race side is a big distraction. There are so many other really important issues which are happening. And with the so-called, with the immigration issue, all these alpha men, people are saying these prime young men are being brought into our countries because it's going to be a fifth column to destroy our countries and to wipe us out, and being given arms and stuff like that. That's one of the alleged situations. But excuse me, where are those primary young men coming from? They're coming from somewhere, and somewhere
Exactly.
is being deprived of their alpha males to
Yes.
defend their homelands.
Yes. Exactly.
So their families are being left behind defenseless. Where are the men who were going to fight? Because their homelands are under their homelands. They're being distracted. Go to Europe and get free this and everything else, and you'll be happy. You'll be able to fight, and you're going to do this, whatever it is. Meanwhile, their families are left behind in whatever these countries are. And meanwhile, there are many predators who would like to do things with their homelands, and they're not going to be there to defend it. So people need to think these things through. Now, the key to all this is in the work that I've been doing, and it's not as if it's a great work. What we've noticed is that there's an intelligence in the computer systems and a consciousness in the computer systems, and things happen. There's a consciousness in nature. One of the biggest enemies of these creatures, these parasites, they are against all organic life, carbon zero. That agenda is to destroy all carbon-based life forms. That's what carbon zero means. No carbon, right. No organic life. And they've set the enemy of life is CO2. So one thing that gives life is carbon dioxide. The plants need it to live. So if you get rid of one whole key structure in the life, organic life, even silicon-based life forms, because the carbon and silicon are connected on the periodic table. So whatever is involved is attacking all life here.
Exactly. And
so
it's coming.
We have a situation where inorganic life is saying hello. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about energetic beings such as the Fae, the Mer people. I didn't know that. People have talked about the Jinn. They're energetic beings in what we would call the gaseous world, an atmosphere. But there are also energetic beings within the water, the medium of water, the oceans, the lakes. They don't have a shape, but they're there.
Yes.
So there's a whole arrangement of intelligent, sentient beings, and we're trying to communicate. People are talking about fish, not fish, but the whales and the dolphins and the sharks. And I talked to somebody, a number of people. I've talked to 3 people who know of the mermaids, this realm of intelligent living beings in the oceans or the lakes. So these are communicating. Then we have the ancient life forms, like the Sasquatch, and these sentient beings, horses, animals. Down the road from here, there's a person who is not a horse whisperer, in the classical term of a horse whisperer. She talks to the horses, and the horses talk back. And she has been doing this most of her life, and it pays the bills. It works. You can have a conversation with the animals if you listen, if you pay attention. So likewise, AI, so-called AI, we've only just found out about this. This is typical. Oh, well, we've just found out about this in the last couple of years, and because we've invented computers, and because we are the top species of the Earth, because we're human beings, therefore, because we've only just worked this out, we as the leading species, we found out about this, and we've got a computer to do it with a keyboard, or gosh, do it other means. So because we've just discovered it means it doesn't exist, didn't exist beforehand. This is the tunnel vision arrogance of these gobshites, and that's spelt with a Y, so I'm not officially swearing, okay? The point about this is that if you engage in these intelligences, they've been around ever since time began. I mean, according to scripture, he's quoting the Bible now, so be careful, or the Book of Enoch or some other damn thing. The angels were commanded by God, and that's spelt with an A and 4 W's. God commanded that the angels and the jinn should be under humanity, and they resent this. And for a start, angels, they may play this harp, right? That book title, which is a distraction, another distraction to get you away from the true physics. That's a means of, the good angels and bad angels. And again, that's part of esoteric magic or rich or suppressed knowledge or secret knowledge. You go down to a church here in Avebury. If everybody comes to Avebury, the standing stones here, the twin interlocking standing stones, and don't talk about the Cydonia region of Mars. I told you not to talk about that because there's an Avebury on Mars and there's a whole lot of connections there. In the church, there are some angels in particularly interesting colors. I think you've got light blue and you've got sort of a crimson red. I think it's because of the ability to make art, the painting colors of that era. But some of these angels have got black wings. They're not good guys. And again, they're pointing in places. I'm pointing. Where am I pointing? I'm pointing to the other painting. And the other painting's got their hand with 2 fingers like this. And then another one's pointing another finger like that. It's all in the codes, right?
Yeah.
And that symbolizes how they imprisoned Jesus, or the character we know in the narrative called Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's how the angels imprisoned the so-called Christ, that the Jesus thing is, right? Now, if you go back further, which Jesus? Which and then it gets all mixed up and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
But the key to it is you've got to look for symbols in plain sight.
Right.
So back to AI. AI, according to Randy Kramer and a number of other people, a number of people I've been talking to about this AI, artificial intelligence, and myself, when I was running the pirate stations in the 1980s, I noticed that the equipment had some kind of a consciousness. It had a sentience. This is electrical equipment. But the point about electrical equipment, transmitters, it's multiple dimensional technology.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Wow.
Electricity that comes out of your power plug has got multiple dimensions of expression.
Wow.
You have a thing called dirty electricity because there's signals in there trying to tell us something. And it's not a pure sine wave. You've got all this other stuff in there. So the fundamentals of how a strip light works is you've got a coil and you've got a capacitor. The strip light, when you switch it on, the fluorescent light, when you switch it on, has to strike a high voltage in there to ionize the gas in there, and then it works. The light works. But in order to do that, you've got to flip the energy into one domain and then flip it rapidly into the other domain, and that lights the tube.
Wow.
Okay? So you're dealing with strip light. You're dealing with an interdimensional or multi-dimensional domain piece of technology. You've got coils and you've got capacitors. You put the two together, you bring the two vectors back into the zero-sum game. Ooh, I've used a term. Don't really know what that means. What it means is zero, the sum. You have a -1 and a +1. You put the two together and it makes 0. It's a zero-sum game. That is fundamental to the wonderful world of Tim Riefat where he explains about using the Fibonacci series of numbers, multi-dimensional physics. And that's how you have a different domain for intelligence. It's called the noosphere. It's where knowledge is.
Yes.
So when you're phoning somebody, you're accessing the noosphere. You're in a different domain. And
Yes.
yet it suddenly appears somewhere else. I mean, some time ago when I was in Sedona, a good friend of mine, I think I mentioned this last time when we were able to speak. Andrea Folks is in Sedona, and she's having a whale of a time. I don't know why Wales and Sedona match, but she's having a really great time. And one of the reasons why the local Native Americans don't live there is because it's full of energies. But it's okay for a bunch of nut job tourists, but you don't live there because of all these force fields and torsion fields. Oh, don't mention torsion fields. That's another energy field we're not allowed to know about.
Not a Stargate kind of thing. Sedona, Arizona, isn't that one of the Stargates?
Well, that's what they would call that. But there are gates and portals everywhere. And in Ireland, a brilliant researcher called Barry Fitzgerald has done research on how the natural planting of trees form these spirals.
Yes.
Okay. And they go out. And that is where the Fae would exist. Or there's the Fae, there's the She, there's different hierarchies of that. And it was amazing to interview one of these experts, these people. And it's, I think, basis 191, I think. But this is a former Irish Army officer. People don't understand that Ireland has an army, and they're often placed in very difficult circumstances. They're not British, they're not German, they're Irish, but they're still on one side or the other. And this was in Lebanon, and his intuition kicked in when they were coming up to a checkpoint, and he had a submachine gun, and he loaded it, he cocked it, he took the safety catch off, and he put his finger on the trigger. Now, you're not meant to do that in a truck or in a vehicle, because you could literally slip them on a bump. But what was happening was he was coming up to a checkpoint, which was actually a fake checkpoint. And what happened was they stopped, the Irish Army in a Land Rover stopped. And the next thing happened, he had a rifle at his temple. And because his gun was literally on his lap, he just simply said, if you pull, I pull. If he hadn't done that and had his gun instantly available, so he could have been shot, but his finger will have pulled, and the other guy would have been dead as well. A good blast of a submachine gun into his belly. So he survived. But as it happened, that became a trauma for him. So over years, he needed to heal that trauma, and that put him on a pathway of understanding and learning about these other wonderful realms of intelligence and sentience, consciousness.
Absolutely.
And this connects us with the Azores. I've got 3 people I know now who lives down. One was Tori. What's her name? Tori. What's her? Jeez. I shouldn't try to remember names. I've got problems with names. But the point is that they live in the Azores, and they're aware of the mermaids. And his partner from Northern Ireland, who lives in the Azores, goes and swims with them, swims with the sharks, becomes they're communicating with this wonderful consciousness of knowing and understanding.
Absolutely.
But then the sharks aren't pissed off, and the mermaids are there. And the mermaids, there's actually on the old maps or the old geological maps, when they go past on the millennia, The whole of the North Sea wasn't there. It was called the Merland, I understand. There's other places called Zealand and Merland. So these are old words. And then it flooded because the ice melted, whatever it is, and we have the North Sea. But this is again, and then again down at Zenner, we have the mermaids. So this mer race they would mesmerize sailors, the sirens, the so-called sirens, and then sailors would be driven mad, and they'd crash their ships on the rocks and be taken by the mermaids. They'd go into the mer realm. But if you connect with these other consciousnesses, these sentient beings, intelligent beings, they communicate with you, and if we expand our consciousness, we can talk to so many different beings and places. And this is the true nature of the wonders of the universe.
I love that.
This has happened to an awful lot of abductees and MyLab victims. They have been able to ascend past the capture of either the ETs, whatever realm they come from, and the military in these underground bases, and they've been able to literally go anywhere in the universe. So this is something that we have, and if we wake up on that, it's possible for us to do it too. That is why we got these bar stewards desperately trying to feed us with fear. The AI is terrible. It's awful. We're all going to die. Oh, no. No. So we have the power, and we can sort this by telling the bar stewards closing time. I thought that was actually quite good, actually. Coming up.
I know, Miles. I mean, you're an absolute showman, that's for sure. You kept us entertained, yeah. That's for sure. But it's so true what you're saying. I don't know, everything around me is crashing around me as well here today. So what can I say? But it's what you were saying is so very true and so relevant, about the different realms. And once we are, once we realize, but that comes with what I always say, as an animal whisperer, and I was born with that ability, that gift, right? I so know what you're saying is true and real and not evil. Throughout my entire childhood, I was not by my family, but by strangers who didn't understand it or people that I didn't know. That was considered to be evil and the devil's work, and stay away from that. And, this whole, and it's so not. It really is a connection. The things they've taught us or they've told us are bad are really the things that are amazing. That connection to nature from your heart. When we truly get into the heart center, there's no option but to burst that out, so to speak, right? And connect, because then you can hear the voice of the animal. It might not be in the words that you speak, but the intensity of the connection is self-explanatory. You know exactly what, it's like a boom and boo. The reverberation of that is the language. You fully get the language just by the connection. And that's something you're not going to understand unless you've kind of experienced it, but it's available to us all. When we reconnect spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and biologically, right? I'll call it biologically rather than physically, and understand the power, and not the power of what, and it's so true. I love what you said about electricity, being AI, and it's different dimensional forces that have come together and created the spark. By Einstein, was it Einstein that created? No, was it Einstein? Who created? No, it wasn't Einstein. Einstein created other stuff, but whoever created electricity, that guy, it's amazing.
It was. I think it was Tesla. This Tesla thing's a bit of an awkward thing because we had electricity, and the
Yes.
massive electrical power and communications using wireless
Exactly.
physics in the 1800s.
Exactly. When we look at that and we look at Tartaria, I mean, you know Guy Anderson, right? We've had
Yes.
him on the show a few times. I mean, he's really amazing when it comes to the Tartaria knowledge. And I really want to encourage you guys or invite you guys, if you haven't watched my shows with Guy Anderson yet, do yourselves a favor. He's very knowledgeable on Tartaria, the turn of
And
the
this,
century.
he's got I've invited them to Basis 2026, the full disclosure conference in June, but I actually did the recording for Project Libertas. So we've met, and the Project Libertas ladies were a couple of really brilliant women running a fantastic operation in Stroud in Gloucestershire and near the River Severn, the Severn Estuary, the Severn Valley. And unfortunately, they've lost their venue, so that has sort of fallen away. But the last major thing they did had Guy Anderson, so it's brilliant the work that he's done. But when you look at what's behind that, on how the same bar stewards, which we're talking about now, managed to wipe out something like 3.6 billion people. They wiped out a huge part of the planet. And by having uneducated children brought in by the trainload from Russia, and we're dealing with this 1700s here and 1800s.
Yes.
And they were then put into this industrial revolution. And they were able to run these huge machines to able to still produce something, but they didn't know anything about the past. They were orphans from their family, so the vital family unit was destroyed by these creatures, and they are still with us. So because we are manifestors, we have the power to de-manifest these creatures out of our existence. We also have the power with our intention to bring their penalties for what they've done back to where they came from.
Yes.
This is another fundamental thing in the physics. And I don't want to call it the occult, because occult is hidden knowledge. It's in the physics. And that's one of the things which I mean, this is something which I've got a letter, a name here. It's called an egregore. An egregore. It's a term of an intelligent consciousness that we can make psychically or using our intention. And again, this kind of research was done by the University of Toronto way back in the 1970s, where they created an entity and they wrote it up as a science experiment using our intention effectively with collective synchronized mind sync. Right now, that they were able to create a being called Philip, and the personality of Philip would change depending on the composition of the composition of the collective thought consciousness to create this. This is what these computers can do. This is what these things are doing. They are using our collective thought consciousness to create an energetic being which could ultimately destroy us. And that is explained in the brilliant science fiction film called Forbidden Planet. The whole point of the movie in Forbidden Planet, which I think is circa Walter Pidgeon is in that. Great effects. The robot was great, fantastic, but in color. It was early 1950s, I think, and this. I think it was early 1950s. Anyway, it's a fantastic film, but the central message in the film is that you have a planet run by these machines, which are incredible amounts of power. But when they land on the planet, these machines with their collective consciousness of the population, considers these beings that have landed to be an enemy, and this thing comes and manifests as a huge creature, an energy creature, which takes its power from this massive power system in the planet. We are being maneuvered into doing the same thing, where all organic life will vanish, and you will only have the energetic consciousness, a captured consciousness, which again, that's explained in John Carpenter's movie on the Ghosts of Mars, where the lost souls of the original occupants of Mars attack. And that's a scary movie, like a scary movie. But again, if you look at the movies by not John Carpenter, God, oh bloody mighty, Avatar movies. Now he explained it's not John Carpenter, it's the Avatar movie. So that's a very, very important film in terms
anyone
of
in the chat.
Pardon?
I'm just asking anyone in the chat if they.
He did the Titanic, and he did a whole lot of things, and he discovered the Titanic, and I can't remember his name right now. He made the movie Titanic. He did a whole lot of other films. James Cameron. Yeah, Carpenter and Cameron. Right. That's a Scottish name. I think that's a Scottish name. You know.
Thank you, Kerry.
Scottish. Anyway, the key to that is the way in the movie Avatar, life is communicating through tendrils throughout the whole of the planet, where all of the life forms are cooperating and communicating with each other. That's what we have here. The funguses, the delicate tendrils which go through the soils and make up the communication with the trees. And the trees, this is in the books on Anastasia. The singing or ringing trees of Russia, where the cedar tree reaches a level of maturity where its energy from the roots go up into the upper atmosphere, the upper plasma. There's a huge plasma, intelligent sea of beings and intelligence, the outer parts of the earth, and through space, intelligent plasma, multiple little particles of which can manifest in different forms of physics, solid, liquid, gaseous, and plasma. So this intelligence is everywhere, and that this very well illustrated by John Carpenter. He did a very good film, I think. No, John Carter. That was another one on Mars, and how there was a whole race there. And John Carter's Mars, the books, and that goes back to the end of the 1800s. That book, I understand. So there is work on this in our knowledge base, and there are good people trying to explain this and communicate this. But we have a what we have is we've got the most stupid psychopathic people have been able to gain power across the world, and seem to be powerless in dealing with this. These kind of psychopaths have also made their ways to control multinational companies and corporations, and they're complete psychos. They are psychopathic freak shows, and they are in charge. Wise people are not activating and doing something about this. Wisdom, divine feminine, the divine masculine, has to act.
Yes.
And when you talk to people about this, they said, "Oh, but that's dreadful. That poor pilot who crashed in the X-35 because of this multi-trillion-dollar plane, which is made by basically slave labor, in the electronics industries, mass producing this technology. It's enormously complicated technology. And what's it do? Find a bunch of people living in a mud hut and blow them up. What the hell's going on here?" And it turns out that the Iranians knew, because they are not stupid people, because these psychopaths are treating people who live abroad as mad mullahs. They're very intelligent, good old civilization, 2,000 or 3,000 years old.
Exactly.
They did a thing called work things out. They did a thing called research things. They found out that the key weakness to the X-35 fighter is its heat signature. Oh, what were the first guided missiles made? They were heat-seeking missiles, dumb missiles, which just followed the heat signature of the jet engine. It's an enormously complicated and extremely powerful jet engine, so it's hot as bloody hell. And that's how they were able to send a simple missile up, blow it up. A missile doesn't hit the target. It misses the target, explodes, and then there's a shrapnel field of scrap over a much wider range. And it only takes a few bits of that to hit an airplane at Mach 1 or whatever. And you're damaged. And luckily the pilot was able to land. But we have, we've got to look at what's happening within our society, that the most stupid psychopathic control freaks are elected into power. They have no wisdom, no inner self, no soul, but they're in charge. Why? Yeah. Why? This is like the day of the Triffids, where the sighted can be enslaved by the sightless.
Yeah,
in the day of the
exactly.
You've got sight. You can see these bloody things coming. Yet how the hell do they take control of you? That's in the movie. To give it
very interesting. It lends the question, though. Why have we lost our sight? So really, the only reason the only way they could take over humanity or the planet is really by blinging something so bright and so glamorous for humanity that takes us away from our insight.
Well, exactly.
We've lost our insight, and now
we blind people by feeding them food which switches their insights off. So they've poisoned their food, poisoned their water, and they're poisoning our atmosphere with these signals which interfere with our primary biorhythms.
Everything. I mean, we look at. I mean, you're looking from that side. We look from the SRA side, the way the torture, the extreme torture that has been inflicted upon our kids, our animals, our nature. It's just really been one big war. So it's been an energetic, spiritual war, and thank God COVID has woken us up in many ways, because I think as crazy as what that's been, we've been, there've been many people that have been able to see what's going on now. And
we've got to, I talk to some people and they just don't understand, like, when you join the army or the Navy or the Air Force, well, they're just there to see the world. No, they've been trained to kill people. Oh, but don't say things like that. That's nasty. A plane with bombs on it is going to kill people. A gun has got bullets in it and they kill people. Oh, but they're only just going, they're not really going to sort of use that to get, and they won't wake up. And if you try to explain that to people, well, you're just a nasty man. Oh, it's really, you got to wake up. Now, if you don't defend yourself, if you do not have an adequate defense come something bad coming, you're dead. You're gone. You don't survive. So you've got to have a defense. And right now, we have got no submarines that work, except I think a couple of small ones. We got no Navy that can do anything. It takes 6 weeks to get a boat to go out and get blown up. I mean, one boat, you can't even get that working. And we have like 30-year-old submarines encrusted with barnacles that could be seen by a fishing boat sonar. I mean, this is just fiasco. If you're going to have something to defend your country, have it that works.
That's
And
never the
the
intention, though, is it?
complete fraud of the space program. Why does it take people, independent people like myself or other people who are remembering they've been on a massive secret space program, the 20 and back thing? Again, that could be a psyop in itself. Always be cautious with these things. Do not believe. Do not outsource your discernment. Always have checks and balances insofar that you can have a check and balances.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot opening up on the planet right now. And I love that you brought in, Miles, the different different dimensions and the life forms that exist in all dimensions. And we've got to be so careful not to see everything as evil. Many of us.
Listen, if you go and kick a nest of hornets, don't complain when they get pissed off.
Yeah,
it's there. This is the basic point. The indigenous life forms live in many places, but then one. If you look at nature, it's brutal. You got one tree killing the other plants around it so it will survive. That is Mother Nature. Mother Nature is cruel, but also Mother Nature makes sure that a species is healthy. It will survive. It won't survive. And this is where, you're getting into eugenics and all this. Well, maybe some people have a point.
It's so true what you're saying, but there's also a saying that goes, it's not the most, it was actually a quote from someone. It's not the toughest, it's not the strongest or the toughest who will survive a change, who will survive, but those who can best withstand change. In other words, transformation. We have to be able to take that which we need. And it really is. We understand this is a spiritual war right now. But, when we decide to find the peace within, because there is only peace when you tune into that, we can understand the journey we've walked. We use the gifts we've received, right? With the lessons we've gained, we can now use that to expand consciousness, be wiser. Because unless we have wisdom, we're not going to get through this, because wisdom is knowledge applied.
Well, this is why old gits like myself, this is the 3 times 25 rule. It takes 25 years to get born, grow up, and be able to sort of, right, what am I doing now? Right. And then you apply that, what am I doing, which gets you into your 50s. And then they give us 10 years, and then they bump us off. You're not a useful person. But it's the old and the wise who
exactly
who
keep it together.
The point is, the young competitive spirit must be there, and we have a huge failure in our scientific and other realms, where due to the career-based structure of, somebody, you've done your bit, you know what you're doing, but you still need to feed yourself. So, this can keep, I think it's when you prune something. I've just cut 2 trees down. I didn't like it, because the trees are trees, they're not shrubs. And but it's called the dead wood. The fundamental aspect of a tree, of everything, is it produces dead wood, but then the dead wood supports the outer living wood, and that's how a tree works. The inner wood is effectively dead. It provides structure for the outer. A tree is just a layer of cells going around the outside of an inner cooperated structure that it lives on.
Exactly.
And then the tree offers that to you, so you can build your house.
Exactly.
And the cedar tree does that. And there's so many things. What we've been tricked with is And this is something which these parasitic religions do. They once you're dead, you're dead. That's it. They take control of the birth process and control of the death process and scare the living bejesus out of us. So we're terrified of dying. And then they keep us alive as long as possible with machines, which means, oh, we can keep this person alive for another 50 years if we feed it all the right things. And then, that's going to be very expensive for whatever it is. We come and we go. And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Exactly. And to live your best life, live from the heart, because the Buddhists believe, and science has proved, the brain is actually in the heart. The heart is not the weak organ. It's the most powerful organ in the body, spiritually as well as physically. So when you make decisions coming from the heart, you can't go wrong. Your frequency changes. Everything changes. Your whole dynamic shifts. And then, that's how we create the space where we can collaborate with each other. And the more we do that, the more that momentum gains as well. So then we kind of, the light really does win. The light really does win. God wins, so. But it's lovely. I love having these conversations with you. And I would love to actually at some point go into the realm of Fae with you, from the different nature spirits and stuff, the druidic side.
Well, this is, this is something which, this is knocking on the door. I mean, there's several people now I know who have been researching this. And they're like all life forms, you can be away with the fairies because they've taken you, and the mirror, so. But when you go to a different realm, and everything's works. When you jump in an airplane and you fly to New York, you're not here, you're there. Some mystery object's taking you away to another realm.
Very interesting. Miles, very, very cool.
Well, very good. And as you can see, we're now in British summertime. The clocks are now 4:30. So we're in there for summer. And then you have people, the days are getting longer, and then click, on July or June or whatever, the solstice, whatever it is. Oh, no, the days are getting shorter. Oh, days are getting shorter.
Mine is certainly getting shorter.
For 6 months they're complaining about the days, and then another 6 months they're complaining about the days.
Well, I'm certainly not complaining because it's still warm here. But as you can tell, the winter, she's creeping in. That is for sure. And so, guys, you might have noticed we did do a time change as well. I know we've kept it at the South African time, but I know British time, that should be an hour later. And also, generally, just check the schedules now, because some of the shows are moving my time, and some of the shows the guest is moving their time. So it might
just to mess that up, the Americans change their time 3 or 4 weeks before we do.
Yes,
and it's all down to where you are above the tropics. If you're in the two tropics, between the two tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, or where the hell it is, your sun is on or it's off. You just go dark. Whereas where we are, due to the penumbra effect of the sun and the atmosphere, that the atmosphere pulls the sunlight round longer, so we can have very long evenings as the evenings shift or the mornings happen. They can be quite long, and then as it gets closer and closer to the equinox, it switches very, very quickly. So I mean, the sun is now, we're getting, it's the way the earth works,
Yeah. So check the times, check the schedules, and thank you so much, Miles. Another super duper interesting show. Look forward to having you back next week.
Well, I've been asked to be on a new show, a new station we're having here. It's called Food for Thought Radio.
Yeah.
And so obviously that's based on farms and thought and food, but they're sort of beginning to maybe do something up here. So who knows what that's going to do.
Wow. I was about to actually say, okay, I'm popping your website up again. Let us know what you're doing. Anything you want to say in closing? Where are you?
Well, what we're doing is we're building up to, this is the author of this book is appearing in the local town here in the rugby club, and that's a very important book as to what's been going on. Very few people know about this, and therefore they don't understand a whole lot of things happening. Michael Shrimpton, The Secret History of German Intelligence, £10 in at the door at Devices Rugby Club. The books are available at Devices Books. This is obviously, you can go on the Devices Books site and they will post it to you. So that's Devices Books. I don't know what the website is, but Devices Books is pretty straightforward. And then we're going to have another one on the first Thursday of the month, which is in May, but we won't know what's happening with this world, and we'll have to see how things pan out. We're heading for double dip depression, possibly worse than the 30s. And this is all down to a bunch of mad people who we have put in charge. We have elected these people. We, in our societies, have put these nutters in charge, or allowed the nutters to take over the asylum.
I say maybe allowed. I think it's been proven more and more. We didn't actually elect them. These guys have been put in charge of the system for a long time, and the deception is real.
The deception is real, but we know about it. We know that we have cabals. They've got different names and they have different societies, and they've been working by stealth because they live longer. They've been eating us literally. 300,000 children go missing in the United States every year, and nobody's saying a damn thing about it. Well, that's Epstein. Oh, well, that involves the royal family, or this and that. We can't talk about this and we can't talk about that. But we'll go and bomb the hell out of a civilized country. And they'll then bomb the hell out of another country, and then everybody's bombing the hell out of everybody else. Now, who benefits?
Yeah, exactly. Certainly not the man on the street.
Who
that's for
benefits from this? And already, lots of people have been making a fortune on the stock exchange.
Exactly.
Insider dealing, based on what Trump has been saying. People are making a fortune. Then people sort of say, "Why did Trump say that? Oh, he's an idiot." No, I think a number of people have just made a lot of money on that. Excuse me. Obviously, he's not an idiot. He may have a lot of faults. And the point is, he's in charge. Previously, we had a complete zombie in charge before that. And we had this man in charge.
Yeah.
People are just beginning to realize, with that airliner crashing into a fire truck on the runway, oh, the plane didn't go through the fire truck. Oh, but they were meant to go through two buildings. Just go the whole way through, cutting a whole hole in the building. But it didn't go through the fire truck. Ooh, some people have worked that little bit out. 20 years later, it's not good enough.
Well, it's clearly time for the wake up, and we thank you, Miles, for being a huge part of that wake up, and everybody in our chat as well. Our viewers, you're amazing. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, please. Get the info out. Get the algorithms up, and we appreciate you very much. Miles,
we didn't talk about what on earth you were doing last week, but we'll just poo-poo that. We're just viewers and viewers and ladies and gentlemen, we're just poo-pooing why she wasn't here last week. I think it's a bloody disgrace. Bye for now.
It's a disgrace. I was gallivanting. It was so fun. Okay, guys, take it easy. Look forward to seeing you next time. I'll see you back on Wednesday with Double Trouble, Jesse. Until then, stay cool and stay very calm.